Arsenal went to Brighton on Wednesday night and came away with one of the most important 3 points of their entire season. Bukayo Saka scored in the 9th minute. That was the only goal of the game. 1-0. Brighton pressed, Arsenal defended, and when the final whistle blew at the Amex Stadium, the celebrations in the away end told you everything you needed to know about what this result meant. But here is the thing that made this night truly extraordinary. While Arsenal were grinding out that result on the south coast over at the Etihad Stadium in Manchester, something equally significant was happening. Manchester City, the defending champions, were drawing with Nottingham Forest. They had led the game twice and they threw it away. 2 times they gave up their lead and dropped 2 vital points at home. When that news reached the Arsenal fans packed into the away end at the Amex, the scenes were something else entirely. The players knew it, the coaching staff knew it, and Mikel Arteta, standing on that touchline, knew exactly what this combination of results meant for the title race. Arsenal are now 7 points clear at the top of the Premier League table, 7 points with the season entering its final stretch. That is the reality of where this club stands tonight. And if you are an Arsenal supporter, you have every right to feel that something genuinely special is building here. Now, before we go deeper into this story, let me be clear about what was at stake last night, because it is easy to look at the final score and think this was comfortable. It was not. Brighton, under Fabian Hurzeler, are one of the most tactically demanding sides in the Premier League. They press relentlessly, they move the ball quickly, and they are not afraid of anyone. Going to the Amex and winning is never easy, and it was not easy last night. If Arsenal had dropped points at Brighton and if Manchester City had won at the same time, that 7-point gap would not exist. The momentum would have shifted, the pressure would have increased. The narrative around Arsenal's title credentials would have changed completely overnight. Instead, the opposite happened. Arsenal won, City dropped points, and the gap grew. That is the reality of what Matchday 29 delivered for this football club. If you want this level of detailed analysis on every major Arsenal story as it develops, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now. This channel covers every angle, every reaction and every implication, so you always have the full picture. Subscribe now and never miss a story, the win and what it means. Let us start with the man who made the difference, Bukayo Saka. 9 minutes into the game, Saka scored the only goal. That one moment of quality was enough to win Arsenal the match. And when you think about the context of this season and how hard fought every single point has been, the significance of that goal cannot be overstated. After the game, Saka gave an interview on the pitch and his words were striking. He addressed the mental pressures that come with being a top-level footballer in the modern era, specifically around social media and the noise that surrounds the game. His message was direct and honest. He said the noise is mainly external, coming from social media and pundits. He acknowledged it is not easy, but said the solution is quite straightforward. Do not engage with it. He described it as a battle that his generation of players faces, and he spoke about needing to be mentally strong to deal with it. Now, what is interesting about that comment is the timing. Saka said this immediately after one of the biggest wins of Arsenal's season, on a night when the title race shifted dramatically in their favour. He is not talking about football tactics. He is talking about mental resilience. He is talking about the ability to block out external voices and focus purely on the job. And the fact that he is saying this at this stage of the season with the pressure at its highest tells you something very important about the psychological environment inside that dressing room. This is a group of players who are actively managing the mental side of what it takes to win a title. That matters. Gabriel Magalhaes and the honest reflection. While Saka spoke about resilience, Gabriel Magalhaes offered a different kind of honesty in his post-match interview. The Brazilian defender was straightforward. He acknowledged that the team knows what kind of game they want to play, and last night was not that game. Brighton made it incredibly difficult. The Amex is a very tough place to visit, but Gabriel's key point was this: what matters more than the performance is the way they competed. They got the clean sheet, they got the 3 points. Those 2 things are what count. His final words were simple. The squad needs to rest now and then go again. That is the voice of a winner. Not celebrating excessively, not pretending the performance was brilliant when it was not. Just acknowledging the difficulty, accepting the result and moving straight to the next challenge. That kind of mentality is what separates title-winning squads from squads that fall short. Gabriel's words actually align directly with what Ray Parlour, the former Arsenal captain, said about the night. Parlour described it as an amazing night, but was honest enough to add that Arsenal played pretty poorly. He did not dress it up. He acknowledged the performance was below par, but recognised the result was what mattered. His attention then shifted immediately to what was happening in Manchester. Pep Guardiola's reaction and the Etihad collapse. Let us talk about Manchester City, because what happened at the Etihad last night is just as important as what happened at the Amex. City were playing Nottingham Forest. They led the game twice and they still ended up drawing. 2 leading positions squandered, 2 vital points dropped at home. For a team with championship experience, with the squad depth that Manchester City possess, that is a deeply alarming result. Ray Parlour described it as dramatic, and he specifically drew attention to Pep Guardiola's face at full time. According to Parlour, one look at Guardiola told you everything. The City manager knew exactly what this result meant. He knew that Arsenal had won. He knew the gap had grown to 7 points. And the expression on his face confirmed that he understood the gravity of the situation. When Guardiola spoke to the media after the game, he kept his response deliberately brief. He said there are a lot of games to play, so they have to continue. That is a measured, composed response from an experienced manager. He is not panicking publicly. He is not making excuses. But the brevity of that response, combined with what Parlour described seeing on his face at full time, tells you that Guardiola knows this is serious. Now, it is important to be accurate here. Manchester City still have a game in hand over Arsenal. They have 9 games remaining. The title race is not over. Guardiola is right that there are games still to play, but the momentum is clearly with Arsenal right now, and a 7-point gap with the season in its final stretch is a significant advantage. Fabian Hurzeler'S extraordinary post-match comments. Now let us address something that became one of the biggest talking points after this game, and that is the war of words between Fabian Hurzeler and Mikel Arteta in the post-match press conference. Hurzeler was not happy, and he made absolutely no effort to hide it. The Brighton manager directly accused Arsenal of time wasting and labelled their tactics as not football. He went further and said Arsenal make their own rules no matter how they are playing. He questioned whether the referees have enough authority to control what is happening in these situations and called for the Premier League itself to step in and set clearer limits. The full extent of his comments revealed just how frustrated he was. He said, and I want to make sure I represent his words accurately here, that at the moment he has the feeling Arsenal are doing everything to win the game and that it comes down to the referees' decisions. He made it clear he will never be the kind of manager who tries to win in that way. He spoke about wanting his players to keep playing football and keep improving on the pitch. He then asked a very pointed question: did anyone in the room actually enjoy watching that football game? He suggested that realistically only a committed Arsenal supporter would raise their hand. He called it a repetition of what Arsenal have been doing consistently. That is a remarkable set of comments from a rival manager, publicly accusing the league leaders of playing in a way that disrespects the game, calling for rule changes specifically because of what Arsenal did. That is not a small thing. Arteta's response to all of this was short, sharp, and perfectly delivered. 2 words: what a surprise. He then added that if you go back through previous games, you will find similar comments like this consistently. He closed by saying he loves his players, the club loves their players, and he loves the way they compete. That exchange is fascinating because it tells you exactly where both managers stand. Hurzeler is frustrated and vocal about it. Arteta is unbothered and confident in his approach. Whether you agree with Arsenal's methods or not, Arteta's composure in that moment is the response of a manager who is not rattled. Victor Gyökeres and the uncomfortable reality. Now let us address the story that will concern Arsenal supporters more than any of the external noise. Victor Gyökeres had a very difficult night against Brighton. The evidence from his performance is not something that can be dismissed or explained away easily. Gyökeres contested 7 duels against Brighton. He won none of them. 0 out of 7. For a striker who is supposed to be leading the line in a title challenge, that is an alarming individual statistic. But it is not just last night. Looking at his overall figures across the Premier League season, Gyökeres is winning just 32% of his duels. That means he is losing more than 2/3 of every physical contest he enters. In a league as physically demanding as the Premier League, where defenders are aggressive, well-organised and physically imposing, that duel winning rate is a genuine problem. It is not a question of his goal record. He has reached double figures for Premier League goals this season, which is a decent return. But goals are not the only measure of a striker's contribution. Holding the ball up, bringing teammates into play, winning those physical battles against centre-backs, these are all fundamental requirements of being a number 9 in English football. And right now, Gyökeres is not convincing in those areas. The question being raised is whether the Premier League specifically is the right environment for his particular strengths. That is a fair question based on the numbers, not a personal attack. Now, to his credit, Gyökeres himself gave an interview in which he spoke about his mental preparation for this moment. He referenced his 2 previous seasons at Sporting in Portugal, where he won the title both times. He said being in similar high-pressure situations before is helping him now. That experience of fighting for titles, knowing what it takes mentally to stay composed in a title race, that background is genuinely valuable. But mental strength and physical effectiveness in duels are 2 separate things. Gyökeres can be mentally strong and still need to improve his physical contribution. Both things can be true at the same time. The technical deficit and the midfield concern. Beyond Gyökeres specifically, there is a broader conversation happening about the technical level of this Arsenal squad as a whole. The evidence from recent matches, including last night, suggests that this team is currently operating without that one special player who can unlock a stubborn defence with individual quality. That creative spark, that unpredictable moment of brilliance that changes a game has been missing. No single player in this squad is consistently standing up in difficult moments and conjuring something from nothing. The references to what players like Dennis Bergkamp and Santi Cazorla provided in previous Arsenal eras are instructive. Those were players who could change a game with a single moment of inspiration. This current squad does not have that equivalent. It is worth noting this is not an external attack on the team. It is an honest assessment of what has been visible in recent performances. And critically, it is acknowledged that this situation is partly the result of the choices made in building this squad. The style and structure of the team reflect deliberate decisions. That is important context. Then there is the midfield situation, which is arguably the most pressing concern for Arteta heading into the final weeks of the season. Declan Rice and Martin Zubimendi have been extraordinary this season, but the evidence in their recent performances suggests they are running on empty. Zubimendi is showing visible signs of fatigue. Rice is missing the sharpness and spark that defined his contributions earlier in the campaign. Both players have been consistently used in an incredibly demanding role, and the physical toll is becoming apparent. The honest truth is that the point at which rotation was needed came weeks ago. FA Cup football is coming, and there will be opportunities to give both players a rest in that competition. But the issue is that the 2 midfielders need proper recovery time, not just one game off. They need to be genuinely recharged so that they are back to their best for the matches that matter most. The external voices and what they reveal. Let us now address the wider narrative around this Arsenal team, because the external commentary on Matchday 29 told a very interesting story in itself. John Mikel Obi, the former Chelsea and Nigeria midfielder, was direct in his criticism. He said Arsenal play horrible football that is hard to watch. He said everything is about set pieces. There is no creativity, just corners and free kicks. He said they do not deserve to be champions with the kind of football they play. Paul Scholes, the former Manchester United midfielder, went even further in a remarkable statement. He said, no team this season deserves the Premier League title. He said none of them have convinced him. He added that he does not think the trophy should be given out this year because the overall quality has not been good enough to watch. Now, I want to be precise here. These are the stated opinions of 2 former players who have expressed publicly where they stand. What is significant is not just the opinions themselves, but the pattern they represent. This is where the tweet compiled from Guardiola and Van Dijk's comments becomes relevant. Both of those men, one the most successful club manager of the modern era and one of the best defenders in the world, have both described this as the toughest Premier League season they have ever experienced. Guardiola said, every team has the quality to hurt you. Van Dijk said, this is the toughest season in his entire career. And then Van Dijk went even further in a separate statement. He said that whoever lifts the trophy this year will have a serious claim to being the greatest Premier League champions in history, given how competitive and demanding this particular season has been. So you have 2 completely contradictory narratives running simultaneously. One group of voices saying the season has been so poor that the title should not be awarded. Another group made up of active participants at the highest level saying this is the most difficult and competitive season the Premier League has ever produced. Those 2 things cannot both be true at the same time, and it is worth asking why certain voices are so invested in diminishing what is being achieved this season. Rio Ferdinand offered a compelling perspective on where Arsenal are heading. He said he thinks Arsenal will win the Premier League title this season by any means necessary, but more importantly, he looked beyond this season. He said that with the confidence and the silverware that comes from winning, Arsenal will become a different animal next season. A harder team to beat, even more dominant. He praised the way the squad has been built, acknowledged the respect the tactics deserve, and pointed specifically to the set-piece deliveries, which he described as a joke in terms of their quality. He added that there is now visible fear in opposition teams when Arsenal win a set-piece situation. That is a significant endorsement from one of the most respected figures in English football. Paul Merton, speaking before the game, had predicted that Arsenal would need to be at their best to handle Brighton, calling it a dangerous fixture. He tipped a 1-2 win for Arsenal and suggested Eberechi Eze would have a good game. The final result was 1-0, Arsenal winning, which validated the broader prediction, even if not every detail was exact. So, what does all of this tell us when you bring it all together? Arsenal have won a crucial away game. They have extended their lead at the top of the Premier League to 7 points. Their captain spoke about mental strength and resilience in the face of external noise. Their defensive leader spoke honestly about the performance but focused entirely on the result and the need to rest and recover. The main rival dropped 2 critical points at home, having led twice. Their manager was visibly shaken by the result, even while choosing his words carefully in public. The opposition manager was so frustrated that he called for rule changes in response to what Arsenal did in this specific game. That level of frustration is itself a form of acknowledgement. You do not demand rule changes against a team that is not effective. There are genuine concerns to manage. Keres needs to improve his physical contribution. Rice and Zubimendi need proper rest. The squad needs a creative spark in the final third. These are real issues that require real solutions over the coming weeks. But the overall picture on Matchday 29 is one of a team that is 7 points clear at the top of the Premier League, with the end of the season approaching. A team that finds ways to win even when the performance is below their best. A team with experienced players who stay calm under pressure and focus on what matters. The external noise will continue. The criticism will come from multiple directions. Some voices will say it is not pretty enough. Others will say they do not deserve it. Some will try to reframe the achievement before it has even been completed. But the facts are what they are. 7 points clear. Clean sheet at the Amex. Manchester City dropping points at home. On Matchday 29, Arsenal moved significantly closer to where this entire season has been pointing. The title race is not over, but the momentum is unmistakably with one team right now. That is the full picture. That is the analysis. And if this is the kind of deep, detailed breakdown you want on every major Arsenal story, make sure you are subscribed to this channel so you never miss an episode. More to come.